In a vast and empty plain resides a beast who flails his arms and legs up towards the sky in a chaotic display of power. As it stomps through the land, it lets out a shriek. Can it even hear its screams? Can it hear itself think, or is it too invested in its own destruction to focus on that? This beast is from the painting The Fireside Angel, created by Max Ernst in 1936. Max Ernst is a German surrealist painter, best known for his dreamlike paintings and his contributions to both the surrealist and Dadaist movement. Despite not being known as a political artist, when researching Ernst, this specific political piece never seemed to hide itself. This piece comments on the fear of fascism spreading throughout Europe, and being a surrealist painter in the 20th century, Ernst had a responsibility to say something about the looming threat of fascism in Europe. Although Max Ernst doesn't make many political pieces, this specific piece gained its fame due to what it had to comment on the spread of fascism in Europe during the 20th century. This is the painting that feared for its future. Before actually analyzing this piece, I want to give some context on what Surrealism was as both an art movement and a political movement. Surrealism as an art movement sought to defy the norm. Their goal was to create art that promotes free thinking and expression without the confines set by reality. They would do this by recreating their dreams. By making something that doesn't exist in the real world, they were able to create a true representation of them as an individual. What they made was above reality. What they made was surreal. However, that's what they wanted to do as an art movement. What did they want to do as a political movement? Surrealism as a movement was inspired by the dream studies of Sigmund Freud and the political ideas of Karl Marx, and would find similarities and grow thanks to a lesser-known art and political movement called Dadaism. Dadaism was a movement made in Zurich, Switzerland. The movement was made in 1916 in response to the savagery and brutality that occurred during World War I. Appalled by the events that took place in the war, Dadaists naturally became anti-nationalist, anti-militarist, and anti-authority, providing the Surrealists with a natural ally. Dadaism, however, would fade after accomplishing their goal, to critique and dismantle traditional art and the norm, and gain acceptance and respect from it. It was only a matter of time that these Dadaists would shift to Surrealists, one of these Dadaists being Max Ernst. During the 20th century in Europe, the main things Surrealists were advocating against were the fundamental norms as well as the constraints placed by the war during its aftermath. Surrealists fought for the freedom to create and express themselves. They saw societal norms as a social deterrent from freedom of expression. They also saw how the war led to a growth of nationalism and militarism, which they saw as detrimental to a person's character. They didn't want their pride and joy to be in a country's power that they gained through violence. They wanted their pride and joy to be through them and their work. In the 20th century, Surrealists would be faced with an even larger issue. Europe saw a rise in fascism through Italy and Germany. Italy and Germany, both in economic ruins, reject democracy and turn for a new, more assertive leadership, led by someone who promises to bring these countries back to the state they once were, perhaps even better. And because the citizens of these countries are weak, starving, and tired, they're quick to accept these people as their leaders and adopt their ideologies and hopes for a better future. Surrealists would obviously hate fascism. Fascism promotes a backwards mindset that glorifies the past. It embraces nationalism and militarism, sets strict rules of freedom of speech and expression of the mind, and a fascist society is run by a dictator, which, as we know, Surrealists hate the idea of oppression. This looming threat of fascism being spread throughout Europe haunted Surrealists. They feared that their art would be censored and that they personally would be punished for speaking freely and thinking critically. Among these terrified artists was Max Ernst, a German surrealist painter who, after seeing the defeat of the Spanish Republicans in the Spanish Civil War, feared a future where fascism spreads through Europe, leaving behind a destroyed society. This fear is displayed in his painting, The Fireside Angel. The 114 cm by 146 cm oil painting takes place in an open plain. The most striking part of this painting is the large beast that appears to be throwing a child's temper tantrum, but at this size the tantrum resembles more of a deliberate destruction fueled by rage and hysteria. The beast is made up of cloth-like limbs that flow with every move it makes. However, the beauty and relaxed nature of this lush cloth is completely contradicted by the beast's sharp and destructive habits. The beast also bears a pink flower. The flower is a powerful thing. It symbolizes growth and a better tomorrow. However, this flower is riddled with spikes, the same spikes on the beast's feet which are used to deform the ground beneath it. The pink flower and the lush fabric is a lie made to convince the perceiver that this beast is meant to help. Even the title, The Fireside Angel, is a complete contradictory to the painting itself. An angel should be kind, helpful, and quaint. This angel, however, is chaotic, disregarding, and destructive. It makes us question if anyone who states that they're in a heavenly position is truly there in the name of God. This angel, who managed to get into our lives, is doing the exact opposite of what it made us believe it would do. It won't comfort us like fabric, it won't help us grow like a flower, and it won't protect us like an angel. Fascism won't give us a better future, and it will only leave destruction in its path. If it wasn't obvious already, the beast is supposed to symbolize fascism and Max Ernst's depiction on fascism on a society. I chose to talk about this piece because I believe that history repeats itself, and by looking back into history, we are able to see repeating problems and point them out as problems before letting them grow. Max Ernst created this piece as a response to the fear of fascism growing throughout Europe, using a beast that displays itself as comforting, progressive, and religiously good, destroying the land around it after being accepted. He is able to display what fascism can do to a society. There is currently a president who has portrayed himself as comforting, progressive, and religiously good, who is attempting to dismantle the United States' progressive attempts to a more inclusive future. He has already shown his intentions of disregarding and deporting minorities, fantasizing a glorified past fraught with golden riches, and is making the everyday person's life harder by increasing tariffs while living his rich life while helping his rich friends. All in the name of Make America Great Again. History repeats itself, and it's important to look at the art that comments on it.